How's it going? And this is the second live that I'm doing on YouTube. And, this office space looks a little familiar, but it's sort of in its bare bones. Um, that's because, a lot of the stuff, like my pictures and the shelving I had in the back, they're gone. It's just this wood shiplap wall that you see behind me. And it actually, it's almost like comforting to kind of be back in the office for a little bit, but it's not the same. Like, obviously my picture's not up. I'm using a different format for all of my stuff. I'm not, and like I said, I'm kind of taking a sabbatical in terms of I ate. Okay. All right. Hello. I think that was Anastasia. Yes, hello. Glad you can come on. So I'm having to adjust the lighting on here. It's a little wonky. But it feels different because it's not the same as the office that I've been in here for like doing content and teaching full time for like 2 years on there. Sabbatical is in your middle of the move. Yeah, I mean, sabbatical is like taking a break from things. So like I'm taking a break from like online teaching and even doing like properly edited long form content on YouTube and Reels, like, which is probably not the greatest thing to do for my algorithm, but I still want to be present for you all, so that's why I am doing the lives on here. And the reason I'm doing the sabbatical was, I mean, first of all, when I did the sabbatical, it was just to kind of take it easy on ALLSCHOOL and be like, okay, I think I want to focus more on content creating. And then we just decided, hey, we're going to sell our house and move to a new house. And we're staying in town, but at the same time, like, selling and buying is still a very, very stressful process. And we just gotta, like, so now the sabbatical's taken a little bit longer than I thought, because it's like, okay, well, I need to be available for showings. I need to be, we have to be out of the house sometimes for like inspectors, but like now we're at a point that like all the people that were supposed to be in our current house have already came here and done their inspections and appraisals and that sort of thing. So they've already done all those things. But we are now doing, hello, Nor from Ohio. Hello again. So now we're in the process of like waiting on the appraisal for a new house, and we're also in the middle of packing. So that's why the sabbatical like ends up being a lot longer than intended. So like I said, like, this feels familiar, but I know like this is probably like one of the last times that I'm going to be like doing any kind of recording like in this space. Like, I wish I could like, it's almost like I wish Polaroid cameras still existed. It's like, oh look, here's a photo of my office, and like show it to you right here. But like, like many of you that have seen my content before on this channel, like what background this is and how it's very, very different than what it has been in the past years. And it's kind of bittersweet. So, because obviously we cannot take this back wall with us, it's going to be deemed the new buyer's property. So, that also means that for my new office, for our new house, it means I get to start over from scratch on what a new new content creating space is going to look like. And I have some ideas in mind, but I'm not exactly, I'm just adjusting the lighting, sorry. It's not exactly, like, it's a blank slate. Essentially, I have some ideas, but nothing's concrete, like, for sure. And I know for this particular live, we're going to be, a lot of you had requested about talking about online teaching. And many of you having questions about online teaching and what that could look like in terms of, you know, just questions that you may have, like, how do you upload a thumbnail? How do you, you know, what do you do for, like, demo videos? You know, how do you schedule out classes? You know, like, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And I mean, and I have done videos on them in the past on my channel, but, like, maybe you've seen those videos and you're thinking, okay, well, the videos are great. I still have more questions that I don't think you've done a video yet, but, like, maybe if there's an opportunity that you are available to be present, you know, that you could ask me those questions. Maybe there's more, there's further than, like, how to do a demo video, or you could do, you know, or maybe you want to find out more, like, stylistic ideas for thumbnails, or you just want to see, you know, you just want to hear from someone who's been a full-time online teacher before. What does that schedule look like? What does it look like to make full-time income and maybe not have full-time hours? So many of you have, you know, had those questions before, and many of you voted on here that I should talk about online teaching. And there is a teeny tiny % of you that wanted to talk about Crow Music Lab as well. I know there were a couple of things that we had talked about last time, but nothing, you know, a lot of you were talking. So, Melissa! Hi, Melissa. I'm so sorry I missed that message. So, so Melissa's a good colleague, a good online teacher colleague of mine, that totally gets, you know, what I'm going through, and realizing that, you know, lives are really the only thing I can do right now. And sometimes the lives happen in a car. Now, guys, look, if I end up closing on a Thursday, if I end up closing on like a Thursday afternoon, and it's around the time that I would be doing lives here, y'all understand that, like, I'm not going to do a live of me and my husband closing on our new house. You get that, right? You get why I couldn't do that? I would hope so. But I mean, we don't know a closing date yet. We don't know if that's going to happen on next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We don't know. Best thing we're doing right now, as we're waiting for the appraisal on the new house, is that we are waiting. So 2 weeks ago, hold on, wait. I'm having like a big ADHD moment right here. So while we're waiting on the appraisal, we're getting a head start on packing. Like, behind the laptop, like behind my laptop, behind my desk, is boxes we've already packed up. Half of my stuff is all my online teaching stuff. Like, it is actually so sad. Like, to the left of me, all the cubby space here, like, it's like gone. Like, there's nothing. And, you know, and that's just the reality that we're facing and moving. So, but what I was saying that had stopped me for a moment. So 2 weeks ago, we had crazy windstorms in my area that not only knocked out the power in our house for like 3-4 days, insane, but also that the neighbor's tree fell down and the roots actually came up into our yard and broke the fence. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're trying to convince this buyer to keep buying our house and this happens? Like, obviously it's no one's fault, but what? So like finally 2 weeks after the storm, someone comes out and they're finally taking care of that tree and the roots that are in our yard, you know, to get rid of the tree. So thank goodness. But there was, I think one of the workers had some kind of long stick thingy. Obviously I'm such an expert at cutting down trees. You know, this is why I teach online and teach Crow Music Lab tutorials and a YouTube creator. The stick thingy. Okay, the stick, you know. So I think one of the stick thingies, whatever that could be, hit our window. Didn't break it or anything, but it was just like a startling moment, like, whoa, hey dude. So anywho, I know y'all don't want to hear about the housing thing, but it's like, I can't help talking about it. But I'm here for online teacher questions. So, and I'm also here for Crow Music Lab questions, because I know some of you watching here also follow my channel because of Crow Music Lab. But what I actually ended up talking about on my Instagram live that I did on Monday in my car, because we had someone appraising our current house, you know, like in that moment, like literally right at 5 o'clock. And I thought, and I told my husband, I said, okay, I guess I'm going live in the car for this. And everyone who tunes in, they're just going to have to, you know, most of them should know that I'm in the process of moving and, you know, and buying and selling a house. So surely they get it. Anyways, but I had talked on my Instagram about kind of like the life that I had before I was an online teacher in terms of like brick and mortar teaching. And someone asked me, like, you know, what is your actual background? And my background, so I went to college for music education, and I did, like, the only thing I was missing to graduate with an actual music education degree was my student teaching. And the thing is, you could not student teach until you passed your content praxis. And the music praxis, for a lot of people, it's really, really, really tough. And what frustrated me so much was a lot of the times I was only like 1 or 2 points away from passing, or if I did get a little bit lower than expected, that it was only because, you know, I was overthinking a lot of the questions and not just trusting my gut, because it was just like, I've already taken this test over and over. I feel like I don't know what's right and what's wrong anymore. Like, but like, I've had all this musical training, but I just didn't get the actual official degree. It's like, it's technically multidisciplinary studies with the focus in music education. Because like, if you look at my transcripts, you can see all these music classes that I've taken. And it's not just like performing ensembles. Like, it's music history, it's music theory, like advanced music theory, and like vocal. I took a lot of vocal classes too, you know, because I was a vocal add-on for like instrumental major. So like, you'll see all these music classes, but the degree says otherwise. But graduated from there with a bachelor's, and then 2 years later, after I graduated from college, was when I decided I was going to go into Montessori teacher training. And where I lived at the time that I started my training, the only certified program that they had was for early childhood. And, you know, for Dr. Maria Montessori, the 3 to 6 year old group being like her prime age that she observed the most out of, I was like, well, this will be good. This is where, you know, she studied the most anyways. So, and that took a year, which was brutal. Both things were pretty brutal. And one commenter said, you know, you got through with it despite all those things being really hard. And I'm like, you're right, I did. So that's like a little bit of history about like where my education comes from, and how it's like leading to here, which is where, you know, I taught in the brick and mortar setting as a Montessori teacher for about 3 years. And then I was kind of realizing the toxicity of the school that I was at. I actually shared the story of the straw that broke the camel's back in the live. Granted, it was kind of towards the end of the live if people were willing to stay that long for that. And I had one little viewer, they're like, wow, is it really that bad? And I assumed they were out as actually not in the United States, because they were asking a lot of questions like, is it really that bad in the United States for like the teacher shortage and like teachers not really wanting to work anymore? I'm like, oh no, it's more real than ever now. So you know, and if you want to hear the story, I mean, because, you know, I have it in my members video where I had shared a little bit more about my current situation, in terms of like what I'm doing in terms of like online teaching and why it's like I've kind of backed off a little bit, but then what sort of led me to leaving brick and mortar teaching and doing this. And now, as we're in the moving process, it's a good reflecting point for me and being like, what do I want to see out of this channel? Do I still want to continue doing online teaching content? Or do I want to move into a different niche and do a different form of content? And I feel so bad because like on my computer right now, when it was before we were really officially moving things, like in terms of like, okay, here's the paperwork to sell the house. Like we were already planning and figuring like how, and like deep cleaning the house to get ready for pictures and stuff when I did this recording of a React video. And it's still sitting in my computer. It has not been touched. It has not been edited. And I really want to show that to you guys. And I want to show you that React video. And then at this point, because we're getting really, really close with moving, you'll have to wait until I'm at the other house to do another React video. And it's all in relation to education. So I want to stay in the education realm a little bit to, you know, because I know this is also kind of a season for a lot of teachers and whether they want to leave brick and mortar teaching and be an online teacher. I mean, I'm sure the buzzword has been around about, online teaching, what does that actually really look like? And, you know, and that's what I want to come on here for. And that's sort of what we talked about on Monday, is that we talked a little bit about, you know, maybe you're going through a particularly hard teaching season, like if you're a brick and mortar teacher at the current moment. But I know many of you on here are online teaching, definitely. Maybe you're doing brick and mortar teaching and online teaching at the same time, but maybe you have questions. Like maybe with your brick and mortar job, you may be thinking, is it worth it to stay, or do I actually have the potentiality to earn so much more online and be able to keep my peace of mind? And that's tough, you know, because especially if you grew up a millennial like me, you kind of grow up with this mentality that like, suck it up, buttercup. No one really likes to work. You know, you still got to go to your job, and like, you just, in your mind, you're just like, okay, I guess I just need to suck up, buttercup, and go to my job despite how much I hate it, despite how much my boss thinks I'm like low life, despite being micromanaged, despite all these things that I'm like, I don't think other people who have been at their jobs for 20, 30 years have ever had this much happen to them. And if they have, and they're just like, well, my parents told me I just had to suck it up, buttercup, then I am so sorry, because no one deserves to be treated like they're low-life employees and be disrespected at their jobs. Let's see, is choosing, oh, that's a good question. Hold on one second. So, is choosing to be a teacher about the money, or is it about teaching? I think everyone has to suck it up, buttercup, at work. Well, hello, Ebdo. That is simply, hold on. That is simply life working for someone else and the problem with the money in general. Yeah, so like, obviously, if you figuring out whether your work environment is a toxic place or if it's just a normal workplace, I feel like that's more of an art than a science, in my opinion. Because, there are people who could go to their very first job, love it, stay with it, in it between 20, 30 years and retire nicely with a nice 401k or a pension, whatever that may look like. And, and I think for my generation particularly, we're just sort of realizing that, unfortunately, there are people out there that want to go beyond, work sucks mentality. I hope that makes sense. Because I mean, you have, I know there are people in top companies that, are like a boomer type mentality, but they also think they can just kind of go over the edge a little bit. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's really complicated. Like I said, it's an art and a science in terms of like whether you can figure out if your workplace, if it's, because sure, when you got to get up in the morning to go to work, you're like, I just want to stay in my cozy bed. But like, there is, so I also, no, I don't know Moroccan. Sorry, I only know English. But I have a part-time job right now that I'm doing on the side, and from years of having not so great jobs, including the brick and mortar teaching job that I was in, this particular workplace, the fact they treat all their employees with respect. It doesn't matter how long you've been there. It doesn't matter if you are higher up. It doesn't matter, or if you're in the bottom of the employee pyramid. They treat you so well. They treat you so kind. They're flexible. They understand that, if you're trying your best, they're not, they, if you make a mistake, it's okay. They've kind of built me up a little bit, and that's what I really love about the part-time job that I'm at, because it's just I did not know this was actually how you were supposed to be treated in a workplace. So having that realization, because sure, in the mornings when I got to get up to go to my part-time job, I'm like, it's so early, I just want to sleep. But the moment I get there and I see people that I enjoy working with there, and and how things just kind of flow, and because here's the thing, when I would get up to go and teach brick and mortar teaching, there would be a lot of mornings I would be crying on the way, See, in my opinion, nobody's staying at their job for, sorry. I'm trying to read your comment. I'm sorry. No, let's see. In my opinion, no one's staying at their job for 10, 20 plus years is doing because they love their job. Most people would rather do something for themselves if they had the means. Doing the work grind isn't fun regardless of which level you are in. Someone is always in the grinder. Perhaps we aren't seeing it, but someone is in the grinder. What? Okay. I mean, you know, it's obviously everyone's prerogative if you want to stay at one job for a really long time, or if you want to change jobs, whether it's toxic or whether you see growth within yourself. Like, I know for a lot of people, like, as much as they want to stay with a company, so they're not job hopping, essentially, like, some workplaces may restrict you from doing that. And if we're being honest, I felt like there was not really a whole lot of opportunities in previous jobs, including my teaching job, where there was any opportunity to, grow. And it was sort of restricting for me in that regards, and wasn't seen as someone who could be, higher up, basically. And I'm not going to put up with that. And, and it's just like, well, if it's going to take so long for me to see growth, then what am I doing here? I expressed with you that I want to see growth and that I want to see X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to stay at this position. So, I just have not had great experiences working under people, with the exception of this part-time job that I'm at currently. So, okay, well, making a living is part of the grind, and no one likes working under a person. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion on that. I'm not saying that you're wrong necessarily. I just think we're now in a different generation that we're aware that, with a job, there comes respect. And if you're not getting that respect, then sometimes it's taking a stand on those things and being like, hey, look, you should not be treating any employee in that way. And the fact of the matter is, if you keep it up, you're not going to have any employees. You're not going to have anyone work under you. So I think it's funny that you think that it's a new way of thinking. I don't think I've ever said it was a new way of thinking. I think the way that I'm trying to phrase it is that I think it's something that we are more aware of, in my opinion. I think it's something we're more aware of in terms of, like, realizing respect is important. The pay we deserve is important, to put up with the grind. So I think that's what I'm trying to come across in that. So, but kind of going back to your original question, like, in terms of teaching, like, are teachers teaching for the wage, or are they teaching for the living? And really, at the end of the day, like, teachers, like, they want to teach. Like, they truly do want to teach. But here's the thing, like, the world of education right now is crazy. Like, teachers, you're telling me, okay, since we're talking about, oh, well, we don't really like going into work, you're telling me that I should have been okay with being kicked and screamed at every day as a teacher? I should have been okay having a co-teacher micromanage me and not trusting that I can actually do my job every day. You're telling me I should just suck it up, buttercup, despite me crying at home every night in my car from brick and mortar teaching. You mean to tell me that despite wanting to have a conversation with my boss about where I stand at the school, that she didn't want to have the time and day for me to have that conversation with her and where I stand at the school, that I should have stayed? You know, like, okay, that's an example of a toxic environment. That an environment that, had I stayed, like, I would not be able to see that growth until I'm basically retiring. And that is not a good way of life. It's just not. And, you know, like, but if you are at your job and that's what's happening to you and you're okay with that happening, I mean, that's on you for that. I mean, I'm not trying to sound mean about it. It's just, like I said, I think it's an awareness of realizing, obviously, you know, we do have to work for something. I'm not saying I'm being lazy about it. You know, I don't think any of us are being lazy about this. I think, you know, it's an awareness of realizing, know your worth in the workplace. And, you know, and if you're not being respected, and if you ask for a raise and they're just not really giving you tangible examples of what you can do to like get to that raise or get to that promotion or get to this managerial position. So you think the kids were abusive, or were the adults doing that? Okay, so, well, first of all, so you think the kids were abusive, or were the adults doing that? I would say culturally in the US, we have created that toxic environment where students and staff at schools feel like they have permission to do that. You know, like, I'm not sure if I fully understand that. Like, I mean, I didn't ask for the kid to kick me in the shins every day. I didn't ask them for me to kick me in the shins. Like, hey, time for you to kick me in the shins. Like, I didn't ask them for that. I mean, I do feel, however, the admins at schools, and I mean, here's the thing. I worked at a private school and all this stuff was happening. So, you know, here's the thing. The teachers obviously are not doing that. You know, what is this thing about, like, you know, parents and students giving permission? And I think it honestly, it's not the teachers, it's admin. And I wholeheartedly believe that the admin at the school that I was at, you know, especially for private schools, they can get away with a lot more than what they can do in public schools. And I'm not saying public schools are better, you know, because admin is admin is admin is admin. They, you know, they take the kid away for a little bit, and then they, like 5 minutes later, I guess they have a chat or they go on a walk or something, and then they come right back in and basically repeat the same thing over and over again. And the thing is, teachers are not a witness to that because we have to stay in the classroom with the other children that are present. So, you know, it's almost like, well, we don't know what's going on. So, like, and the thing is, admins, those are the people under the teachers. And when the admin's like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then, especially when it comes to parents, I think parents are kind of the blame, because they're trying to push the limits a lot in terms of, you know, oh, what can my child get away with special privileges? Or, you know, if I ask their teacher, hey, can you regrade everything for them? And then that kind of puts the pressure on the admin, because the admin, it almost feels like customer service for them, and not like in teacher mode and being like, look, you understand why you have the grade that you have, and not that I wouldn't give you an opportunity to improve that grade, but you know, like, there's a part of me and there's a part of all of us, you know, it's that sort of thing that you know, it's almost like I can't give you this very, very special privilege just because you're whining about it or whatever. Like, parents like to push that limit to admin, and you know, an admin like to think, you know, like, they're like, oh, well, we gotta please the parents, so make sure you please the parents. And, you know, that's why I say it feels more like customer service rather than being a teacher and helping the child grow better in that capacity. So, I don't know. Let's see. I saw another question come up. So, admin can only do what they are allowed to do by state law and district rules law, as much as the teacher in the classroom. I mean, I get that, you know, the superior and the superior, you know, like, I get that, but I just don't understand why. So, and being a teacher in the school sucks. No, definitely. I agree with you there on that for sure. Because I mean, yeah, like, there are a lot of things. I think I talked about it before in one of my chats before, like with a lot of younger kids that have come on to the chat that have talked about, or I have shared on here, like, look, if your teacher's trying to tell you to do X, Y, and Z, they're not trying to be a jerk to you. It's just, you know, that our bosses that we have to report to, we have rules to follow. And if we don't follow them, we'll, you know, we will hopefully be able, you know, like, it's one of those things. Sorry, someone else is chatting and I'm just like, it's like a serious ADHD moment right now. What was I saying? So what I'm trying to say, right, is teachers say the rules because we don't want to get in trouble as well. So teachers are not trying to be jerks. Like, we do have the best interest at heart for you, but some rules that may be silly, it's just because, well, our higher ups told us we had to do it, and if we don't do it, we could lose our jobs, and that's a bigger deal than getting a write-up. You know, so like, trying to explain that and get kids to understand, like, I know the rules are kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, principal or head of school or whoever said this is what we have to do, so it's just part of it, you know. So yeah, like, I think a lot of people's hands are tied in teaching, unfortunately. Brick and mortar teaching. Yeah, so being a teacher in a school sucks. There's no doubt about that. Teachers are in a grinder between what state or district rule and what parents are driving. See? Parents. I rest my case. So, unfortunately, parents are a lot of the driving force in how education is going right now. And, you know, and it's one of those things that it's just like, why? I just want to know, like, why admin and higher ups are letting the parents drive them so much. Because there's a lot of books that I had read in school that none of the kids in school now are going to be able to read. And, you know, I mean, of course, I love that, like, Barnes and Noble and, like, Books A Million are doing these things where it's like, here are books that are banned in schools, and, like, having it out in the store, and I'm being like, yes, I love that. You know, because that should, like, the more that you take away stuff, you know, the more they take away stuff, the more, you know, the more that it entices kids to be like, what the heck is that? Why can't I read it? You know, so, I mean, I know admin don't want to lose their jobs either. Like, admin turnover at school is silly high. Well, a lot of teacher turnovers are high at the moment. And like I've been saying, it's because of the parents. And, you know, I don't know why parents are being so crunchy. I don't know why they're basically in the driver's seat of education. And in my mind, I'm over here just like, you know, if you want X, Y, and Z done in, you know, for your child, then homeschool them. Simple as that. Like, if you don't want your child to read certain books, or you only want them to learn certain things, then yeah, you teach them, and whatever education they have, it all falls back on you, and that's on you. You know, like, if you just absolutely insist that your child doesn't read certain books at school, or even as bad as like, oh, I'm not gonna teach. I don't want my little Timmy learning long division because it makes him cry. Like, even just as silly as that. Like, teach your kid then. Teach your kid, because, you know, I mean, good heavens, I feel like I go to church with a lot of people that homeschool their kids, because when someone said, then you teach their kid, and they're like, okay, I will. And, you know, and that's their prerogative for what they want to teach to their kids. You know, they're accountable for what they learn in their homeschooling, and I don't know what program they do. I'm not sure about that. I mean, that's on them, you know. And I mean, I respect their decision. If they're just like, I don't know about these teachers teaching my kid this or that, I'm gonna do my own thing. So oh, I didn't know you were an educator. Okay, yeah, okay, I see where all this information's coming from. Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that insight. I know I had been kind of like a bitter bird about it at first, because I thought you were just being a hater. But you know, like, you shared that information with me. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. You know, I mean, so the long division comment was truly funny and sadly super true. Yeah. So if you've been working in a public school district, then you definitely have seen the nonsense that has been going on firsthand. I only know from like the private school sector, and it was obviously just from one school. Which, in my opinion, I feel like is not really that much different than the public school system. Obviously, it's school by school basis, but a lot of the similar things happen, like kids kicking at you, parents thinking they know more than you do and not fully trusting you, and you doing your job to help your kid out, basically, in every way. Admin, you know, basically giving in because, you know, like you said, they don't want to lose their job. They don't want to have a bad look on them, you know, like, it's just a vicious cycle. So that's why I do online teaching. Because I still like to teach. I still like to interact with different students. and see like the light bulb go in their heads and being like, I get it, you know, like I still love seeing that. So of quality. I gotcha. I mean, you know, for me, you know, I don't really have a desire to go back to the school system. In terms of like being a teacher there. I mean, unless teachers are just going to seriously get the pay that they deserve for being in the classroom and having to put up with all this other stuff that's been going on in the education world. But I mean, like, I'm not saying I'm not going to work ever, you know, like, I'm not saying I'm lazy or anything like that. It's obviously just, you know, it's kind of fun to explore and see like, okay, this actually fits, you know. So the pay thing is kind of weird. What, like teachers being paid way lower than expected? I mean, yeah. Like, yeah. That's all I'm going to say. I'm torn on the pay idea. What do you mean by that? I guess I'm a little confused. Are you wanting teachers to pay more? Or do you feel like teachers are getting the pay that they actually... Yeah, like, I know they only work, like, 9 months a year. Like, I do understand that. Like, it's this whole, like, calculated, like, well, you only work so many days a year, whereas all the other jobs that pay more, they don't get like these holidays off and where you don't get your pay. And like, I get that, but at the same time, there are many like 20, 25-year-olds in other jobs that start out with pays that teachers who are about to retire get paid. And I don't know how I feel about that. To me, that gives me kind of the yuckies. Like realizing that a 25-year-old, you know, and I mean, and I get that it's all about location and stuff. And so, let's see. What does a teacher get paid yearly where you are? Starting out, I think it's only like 30 or 40K. I think it's not a lot. And I'm here to tell you now, my teacher salary in the private school was not even that great either. I know private schools do not like to pay their teachers what they deserve either. Despite like the tuition that they pay families for their kid to go there, you're being astronomically high. It's like, you know, it's like, I get that there's other things to budget out and that sort of thing, but really? So, I get that some districts are better, but there's also, like, the location of where you are and, like, living salary, like, where you live and what salary you should get to live off of, basically. Like, there's also that to consider. So, I mean, they start out low, but I mean, like, I feel like I've heard, like, engineers starting out with pays, like, in their mid-20s, when teachers would be getting the pay where I'm at, like, when they're about to retire. So, I guess that's where I'm kind of going at with that. But I was supposed to talk about online teaching, and I never did. Because and to be fair, when I come here on the chat, a lot of you come here with your questions. Any question. And that's fine. I want to have that healthy discussion with you on that. But, like, I never really talked about online teaching on here. And you know, and that's fine. That's okay. There's not really a lot of you on here that are asking those particular questions, despite saying, hey, let's talk about online teaching. Sorry for distracting. No, you're not distracting. That's okay. It's, I mean, because otherwise, like, you like my online teaching content? Oh, well, thank you. What do you like about it? What do you like about my online teaching content? Because, you know, a lot of times I make content and I'm like, okay, I think this could be useful for a lot of people. Like, you kind of want to think that mentality. You don't want to, like, a terrible content creators if they're like, I'm doing this for myself, instead of, like, being helpful to other people. So, like, since you said you like my content, what do you like about my online teaching content on my channel? Because there's a lot of things that it's like, am I doing okay? Like, am I answering a lot of your questions when I do all these videos on my channel? Are they helpful? Like, a lot of times, like, I think that's just my anxiety in me being like, did I do okay? You know, like, and, you know, obviously, for someone who, I mean, I'm not like a big mega influencer, but for a channel that keeps getting subscribers and keeps getting comments on videos and people coming on the lives, I must be doing something right. What that is, I'm not sure, but I'm glad you like what you see on here in terms of the content that I have to offer. And so, but I didn't think you were distracting or derailing, because otherwise I feel like I would have kind of gone off, like way off topic. Like, I think I would have kept continuing talking about my housing situation where I'm selling and buying, and you know, and being like distracted because like we had a windstorm and there's tree people out there, like basically cutting down a tree, removing it, and like all this other stuff. Let's see. I was gonna read your comment on here. So, you were entertaining, and I like how you work through the projects you do. It is nice that you treat each project in a way that is inviting to beginners and more advanced. Oh, well, thank you. I'm trying to think, like, oh, what projects are you thinking of? Like, are you talking about, like, for ALLSCHOOL, or are you just talking about, like, online teaching in general, like how to use Canva, or just, like, how things are going? So, I feel like I have made a lot of content. And, oh, my Chrome Music Lab videos. Oh, you like that too? Awesome. Wonderful. Yeah. So, I think, because I know I get a lot of younger audiences for, like, the Chrome Music Lab stuff. You know, I usually get a younger audience, but, like, people that are, like, my age or older, and they're like, whoa, I kind of like what you're doing here. It's cool. Like, I love that too. Like, it's like, whoa. It's like when you're an older person, but you know what's hip and you know what's up, you know, and you don't try to sound like you're the older generation when they're like, do you know how to floss? And you're like, yeah, honey, I flossed this morning. You know, you get what I mean. So, oh, you like the sea shanty. Wow, say that 5 times. So, yeah, that's one of my earlier ones. The sea shanty one. That one was fun. And then eventually I kind of started doing like the trends that were happening on TikTok. Because I mean, my very first video was Into the Thick of It, which was obviously super popular on TikTok in 2021. And then sea shanty is one of those evergreen TikTok sounds that, like, every time I see it on TikTok, it never gets old for me. I love it. I love the song. So I'm really glad I did that video. I know there were other ones that I did last year. Like I did a lot of Stranger Things songs. I did do It's Corn. And the other video that I did where it was like just me, nobody asked for it, nobody requested it, or it's like, me, I requested the song. Like it was the Main Street Electrical Parade one. That was for me. That was only for me. None of you asked for that. And I understand that. And when I filmed it, I said, I do not care. This is for me. Like sometimes you just gotta throw in one of those videos where it's like, I don't care that none of you requested this. I'm going to do it for myself. So that way when I'm like in my 40s and 50s, I can go back and watch that and go, oh my gosh, I actually did a video on that. I can look back on my younger self and say, look at what that little Kelsey's doing on that video. So that was for me. I know none of you asked for that. That was for me. But I know a lot of you were happy with the Stranger Things songs. A lot of you requested like video game songs. Like Five Nights at Freddy's, Sonic. Those are fun. Let's see. And then I did Bluey, which I don't think anyone really requested that either. But at the same time, people like Bluey. And so that was the last tutorial I did. It was the Bluey theme song. And that one was fun. I liked that one too. But I mean, I feel like I won't be able to do another tutorial until I'm in the new house. Just because it's exhausting selling and buying a house. It's exhausting. So, like I said, until everything gets settled into the new house and we have a new background and a new office space, I probably won't be able to come back and do, you know, to show everyone the React videos and another Pro Music Lab tutorial until I'm settled into the new house. Because otherwise, like, when I'm at home, you know, if we have boxes, we're packing, you know, because things are kind of accelerating a little faster than we thought. So, like, even after we close on the house, we have at least 2 more days to make sure we get everything moved out and out of our current house. So, like, we're trying to alleviate the stress from that as much as possible by starting to pack now. Like I said, half of my teaching stuff is put away because we're trying to be like, okay, if we know when the closing date's gonna be, like, all we simply need to do. Oh, well, goodbye. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for coming in. It was good to hear your insight, and I'm glad you like what I have to offer. So, I know I have to wrap up on the live too. So, like I said, I don't know if I really got into online teaching stuff. But at the same time, I like when things happen organically on here too. So, but as I was trying to say before, like, we will only have 2 days in order to get out of our current house. So we're just trying to get a head start and to make it as less stressful as possible. So any free time that I have is going to be used to try to figure out, okay, what's something we can put in a box now, or what's something that we're going to need before we absolutely have to take it out. So, we're trying to, you know, figure that out. So that's why it's like almost kind of quiet on my end for this. But it's okay. Like, you know, because it feels weird for me not taking time in making content. And, you know, it's such a weird season. But at the same time, like, it's at a point now where it's like crunch time to, like, try to pack up and get out of the house as soon as possible and then move into the new house. So it's like, I don't want to risk trying to record content now when this is a beautiful opportunity for me to just be, like, available to you all and to just answer any questions that you have for me. And, like, I often wonder, like, should I be, like, playing a game while all of y'all wait to, like, come on, should we do, like, that kind of thing? I don't know. But, like, here's the thing. I'm going to have to wrap it up here, because I got to get dinner ready soon. I know my husband's going to be like, I'm hungry. So, not that I cook all the meals here, but, like, we actually cook together. And I know he'll be saying that he's hungry, so then we'll need to start getting dinner ready, basically. So, I love doing these lives. I love all of you coming on here, and I get to learn about you a little bit better, in terms of, like, what you're looking for when you're on my channel. So, we're going to, as far as I know, okay, as far as I know, we're still going to meet again on here on Thursday at 5 p.m. That is, unless we find out we're going to close on Thursday at 5. Then obviously I will let you guys know and be like, look, I'm going to close on my house. Obviously, we're not going live. You get what I'm saying? So, I don't know if it'll happen that fast. But it is, in terms of, like, housing world, it is moving a lot faster. So, we are, yeah. And then I still do the lives on my Instagram on Mondays at the same time, too. So, if you are able to come on my Instagram page to the lives on Monday and you can ask your questions then, you know, then awesome. You know, like, we'll talk about it then as well. So, but you guys have such a great night. All right, and see you next time.